Should we get started?
Let's do it.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Dads with Dagobah. We have jettisoned out of the escape pod Shane Kaysen. We're glad he was with us, but we had to let him go. No life forms on that escape pod, if you catch my drift.
Hold your fire. There's no life forms. It must have short-circuited.
I feel bad for Shane because the video where he's a guest star has about, I would say 1,970 less views than the video that was right before that. So a huge drop off in views.
The numbers don't lie, Shane. We're sorry.
So we're never having him on again. Really, the channel just tanked with him on it. So,
welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to be talking about. We're going to continue our series of movies, films, podcasts, whatever we're calling these things, about A New Hope. We've gone through the prequels. We've done Rogue One and Solo. And now it's time for the one that started it all, A New Hope, Episode 4. So Sean and I have watched the movie, and we have taken notes, and we're just going to go through and talk about the things we like, the things we change. If there's things that we change, there's a few things. Mainly I'd revert back to the original on, to be honest, and just talk about what we like and all this stuff about A New Hope. So we're glad you're with us again. We hope you enjoy this. And Sean, with that, are you excited about A New Hope? What are your thoughts and feelings about this movie?
It's a masterpiece of a movie. It's, to me, in our rankings for movies that we did a couple months ago, or whenever that was, I obviously had Empire Strikes Back number 1, A New Hope number 2, but they're kind of like 1A and 1B for me. When I watch A New Hope, I do feel feelings like maybe this is my favorite Star Wars movie and not Empire Strikes Back. But so I hold it in very high regard. I think it's great. It is just, to be cliche, incredibly iconic. There are so many things about this movie that are like, this is iconic. So many other things take this movie as an influence and it's influenced so many films and stories since then. And so, yeah, I think it's great. But that doesn't mean that I don't have, you can't see that because of the Tusken Raiders. I have a very long list in my notes app of questions I have about some decisions that I made. That George Lucas made. And most of those are because things like the prequels exist, Rogue One exists, Solo now exists, where you're like, George, how did you not think this all through? Because A New Hope has the most kind of inconsistencies in the canon that are created because of what would follow this movie.
Yeah. I honestly, and watching this movie again, I failed to, I guess it dawned on me how small of scope this movie is. It's basically Tatooine, the Death Star, and the Trench Run. It's basically 3 main things, right? And so it feels, compared to all of the other Star Wars movies, and I guess movies in general today, the scope is very small.
Size matters not. Look at me. Judge me by my size, do you?
Yes.
Which I think is very interesting because you wouldn't think that because it sets up so much in it, right? There's so much backstory in this movie, but yet it's on basically 3 places. I mean, we can talk about Yavin, but really Yavin's kind of very minor compared to Tatooine and the Death Star, right?
Yeah.
So that's not a criticism against the movie. It's just interesting when we talk about like prequel movies where we're hopping planets left and right. Every other scene is a different planet, and even the sequels are taking us on these. I mean, especially with Rise of Skywalker, this whole path just trying to, find the wayfinder, that this movie is just very, very small. But anyway, I also have some things I want to talk about, so let's get started. We start off the movie with opening credits and a crawl. Interesting choice.
Yeah, this is right. The first movie to do this. I think I've watched a documentary or something before that says that George Lucas had to pay like a fine to the Directors Guild or the something guild in Hollywood because like up until then all movies had opening credits, and he didn't want to do that because he thought it would detract from the start of this story and like the
Yeah.
and so it just had the bam, Star Wars, the music from John Williams, and the crawl starts going up. And it's a good crawl. It's not some whack crawl about the dead speak and Palpatine's back. Haha, joke's on you. And it's actually a 2-3 paragraph prose that would one day inspire one of the greatest Star Wars movies of all time, Rogue One.
Rogue One. I mean, we're picking up right where Rogue One left off. So good job, George Lucas, on kind of taking the reins from Gareth Edwards and picking up right where he left it for him, right?
That's right. Yeah, so really great. The opening scene, obviously if you just watch Rogue One and then you have this opening scene, you're thinking, how much time has passed since Scarif and the Tantive 4 being over the planet Tatooine? Like, it's been an hour, it's been 3 hours, it's been 4 days. It has to be a short amount of time, right?
Did the Tantive 4 go into hyperspace in Rogue One?
I think so. I don't know. I can't remember.
Because if they go into hyperspace in Rogue One, and I don't think they did, we don't have hyperspace tracking yet in the canon. So how did Darth Vader and his Star Destroyer find them? I don't think they went to hyperspace. I think they've been on sublight the whole time.
Okay, editor, put in a map right here. Where is Scarif in location to Tatooine, and how long would that take?
Tatooine and Naboo are very close together.
They are? I thought Tatooine's in the Outer Rim. Naboo's not in the Outer Rim.
Well, from what I understand, they don't make it to hyperspace either. When Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are leaving Tatooine and they get hit, their hyperdrive is down, and so they have to go to Tatooine.
Oh, you're right. Huh. Okay, interesting.
And so Scarif is right there. Anyway, it's always been a question of mine. I assume it hasn't been very long. It's been minutes since the end of Rogue One.
I think it may be, yeah, I think it's within a day. It's been hours in my mind. I think it would take longer than minutes to get from one planet to the other.
That's true.
But at sublight speed. But yeah, it's a very short amount of time. But so here's my first question or quote thing I would change is this iconic scene of all these rebel troopers, getting set up in defensive positions here in the hallways of the starship, getting ready to be boarded by the stormtroopers and Darth Vader. And I'm thinking to myself, the entire alibi here is that we're a peaceful diplomatic mission. We're a consular ship. And I'm like, if you're a consular ship, then why, right when they open the doors, do you start blasting these stormtroopers? Like, oh!
And if you're a consular ship, where is the ambassador?
Where's the ambassador? And then you throw the guy against the wall because he's clearly lying. So I sympathize with Vader and the Imperials here. There's something fishy going on. If you're a consular ship on a diplomatic mission and you're shooting us.
And you obviously just left one of the frigates over Scarif.
And we have to at least acknowledge that for better or worse, the Empire is the recognized government in the galaxy right now. So you kind of are, whether or not your cause is just, you are inciting an insurrection on the ship.
Can I ask you a question that I was thinking about? Is this you know how all of the movies at least have, post crawl, they open up on a starship? This to me is my favorite opening of coming off the crawl going into a starship. Episode 3 is cool, but this is the coolest, I feel like.
Episode 3 is like kind of cool, but also kind of meaningless. I'm like, this is just like.
Yeah, they're just kind of dancing around, right?
Yeah, but I watched it with Corey, my wife, and we both kind of made the comment at the same time when the scene happened. We're like, this is a really great opening scene, and it still kind of holds up. Like the effects, the practical effects and stuff with the models and stuff. I'm like, this still looks pretty darn good.
When much of the rest of the movie, a lot of stuff doesn't hold up, this does. I agree. This stands very well.
Yeah.
To modern day.
I don't really have anything else while they're on the ship other than I had to chuckle. There's just so many things that you remember watching it when you were a kid and you've seen it so many times but then when you watch it to try to dissect what would I change, I found myself kind of giggling at a lot of spots that I'm like, that was really kind of quaint, weird. Like when they're like searching for Leia and she's like kind of hiding. I'm like, she's clearly in plain sight. You're not hiding super well. And they're like, look, there's someone right there. And point blank, she like pulls out a blaster and murders a guy.
And they stun her only.
Yeah. Like point blank, they like murder, and they're like, oh, I guess that guy's dead. Like, except for stun. I'm like, what is happening? Like, okay. And once again, I'm thinking that this is a diplomatic mission. You're a consular ship. I'm a member of the Imperial, on a mission for the Imperial Senate. I'm also murdering stormtroopers here, so please forgive me for that.
Hey, I'm peaceful. I do have a few things to say. There is a mention, C-3PO talks about the spice mines of Kessel.
Yep.
Oh, he's talking about the spice mines of Kessel. Anyway, the stun setting. Is this the only instance where we see the stun setting used?
Yeah,
I think of another time when that's ever been used.
Just set those things to stun.
Right. I don't know either.
And then my last one is the infamous line of "Hold your fire, there's no life forms on board."
Yes.
Which has been given added context in the From a Certain Point of View book. But anyway, it's still such a great line. They get away because there's no life forms on board.
There were many moments in the movie that I kept thinking back to A Certain Point of View and the 40 short stories that they did about A New Hope. And I thought, I'm not going to mention every single one, but I kind of made little mental notes of, oh, there's more story to that now. Oh, there's more background on that. I also think kind of a continuation of the conversation we had last video with Shane about the villains. This is, to me, the most mild Darth Vader that we get as a villain. Even though he's choking that guy out at the beginning and throws him, we don't see him killing any of his own men in this movie. And at the beginning, while they're on the ship and that commander guy or the guy's walking with him, like, it's going to be, he's kind of, I feel like kind of talking back to him. And Vader's just kind of appeasing him.
She'll die before she gives up,
Yeah, leave that to me. I'm like, Vader just needs to start choking this guy out. Like, how dare you question my decision making on how we're going to handle this, all right? But yeah, Vader kind of takes it with a grain of salt, and then he's going to kind of do that again many times with Grand Moff Tarkin. So
why does Vader use his physical hand to choke out the guy instead of the Force?
It's a great question.
Why is he actually choking him?
I think just variation to kind of switch things up. It probably gets boring.
He chokes him
using the Force every time.
I need to feel alive again. Oh wait.
Yeah.
Um, another question I have for you: how does Darth Vader not sense Princess Leia? I have reason to believe from this movie and reading very into it that Leia is already showing some sort of force sensitivity in the fact where she stands up to the probe droid or the truth serum droid, right?
The interrogation droid.
Where they talk about how no one's been able to do what she's been able to withstand the interrogation droid, right? So it gives it kind of credence that she may be force sensitive, regardless of whether she knows it or not, right? But how does Darth Vader not sense something about her?
That's actually a very good insight. And it brings, I guess it begs the question in my mind, I guess it is just canon, right? That force sensitive beings can sense the force in other beings, like, oh, the force is strong with this one or whatever. I don't know.
I would assume so.
Yeah, you're right. You would think that Vader would sense something.
So we know he doesn't know that there's twins, right?
Well, he doesn't know that he thinks the babies were never born.
Are we sure about that?
Yes.
All he asks Sidious in episode 3 is he asks about Padme. He doesn't ask about the kids.
Yeah, he says, and in your anger, you killed her. And then when they do her funeral scene in episode 3, she still looks pregnant.
That's right. I do remember them talking about. Okay, so he thinks the kids died.
I assume.
What have I done?
Also, I just wanted to say something. Giving the plans to something and then sending the droid on a mission to a desert planet is kind of copying The Force Awakens here. So I wish George Lucas had thought of a different route to take to get these plans to where they need to go rather than just copying J.J. Abrams' idea. But anyway, it is what it is.
I'll drop you to Panema Town.
My question is, how could they not just from the ship transmit the plans somewhere else? Was that technology doesn't exist?
They can't talk to each other?
Yeah, there's no... okay.
The reason why they couldn't get it through Scarif was because of the shield, right? And as soon as the shield was down, they could transmit it. You're right. Why is there only one copy of it? Why didn't they send it to a whole bunch of ships? Nope, one copy of this.
The things, I mean, if we were in the rebellion, they would have overthrown the Empire much sooner.
I'll talk about something else about that later, about Leia and how she's setting up the rebellion for failure. But anyway, I'll get to that later. We get to Tatooine. We have a crate dragon skeleton, which is cool. Obviously, we saw a crate dragon in The Mandalorian. I assume The Mandalorian's crate dragon is an adult version, while this skeleton is a much smaller version.
Right. The skeleton looks smaller than what we saw in The Mandalorian. And can I ask you, why is C-3PO saying that his joints are frozen? It makes no sense.
I think they're like seizing up, is what I think he should be saying. Like
well, he's fluent in over 6 million forms of communication, and he used the wrong word there. You are on a desert planet where they have to farm moisture, my man. They're not frozen, trust me. They're dry as a bone.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought about that. He and R2-D2 eventually end up on the sand crawler.
And can I mention again with that C-3PO's New York style hailing a taxi cab strategy of over here, and knowing how big the sand crawler is, and then seeing it to scale from where 3PO is, I'm like, they are so far away at that point. There's no way. How did they even hear him? But those things aren't important. Let's keep going to more important details. But something that I wrote down.
We saw a Gonk droid. That's cool, right?
Gonk droids.
That's all I've got. My next thing is going to be talking about a certain droid later on at the Lars homestead. Do you have anything you want to say about anything that happened in between on the Death Star?
Oh no, and I was just gonna say um, what was I gonna say about? Oh, I think in there before we get to the Lars homestead, don't we see the dewbacks and stuff in the first kind of glimpse of like special edition
Yep.
stuff? I think my wife started getting annoyed with me because every time something like that happened, I would just in monotone start chanting special edition, special edition, special edition. Because it's so abrasively different than the rest of the movie, and
Yes.
it contrasts so much that I'm like, get
It
these
does not
dewbacks
fit
out
in.
of here.
It does not fit in.
No, it doesn't.
Look, droids. I love that guy that pops up. I found this little O-ring. Look, droids.
Yeah.
So we get to the Lars homestead, and I was thinking, I'm pretty sure R2-D2 was not at the Lars homestead in episode 2, correct? It was C-3PO who was there. Am I right?
Right. C-3PO, when Anakin left Tatooine in episode 1, he left C-3PO with Shmi.
Mm-hmm.
So in episode 2, when they go to the Lars homestead, C-3PO is there.
And he has lived with the Lars' family.
Yes. Yes. He's lived there.
He had his memory wiped. Did the Larses have their memory wipes too?
This is a prime example of more examples that we're going to be able to talk through later, but that Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru are the densest people in the galaxy that they can't put the two and two together.
C-3PO basically tells them, my former job was
Yes.
separators.
Yes. The binary load lifters was my first job here on this homestead. Do you speak Bocce? Yes. Beru Lars taught me Bocce. Do you know Beru Lars?
No idea.
I guess you're a program for etiquette and protocol. That's right. I don't need a protocol, right? I'm like, well, obviously you don't, because you weren't too upset when Anakin took me away back all those years ago. You didn't put up a fight.
Where was R2-D2 during that stuff? He was with... No, he wasn't. He wasn't with Obi-Wan, because Obi-Wan had R4.
He was with Anakin.
So R2-D2 was also on Tatooine?
In episode 2?
Yes.
I think he stayed up on the ship, maybe. But maybe, yeah. I mean, he was on Tatooine, yes.
R2-D2 literally doesn't say anything. Oh, I know this place. This is where Anakin Skywalker killed a Tusken Raider camp. It was cray-cray.
No. Nobody, that's all. It's been so long. You're
telling me he forgot?
It's been almost decades. It's more been decade plus 9 years. So almost.
I would like to believe that R2-D2 did not have his memory wiped. Only C-3PO got his memory wiped.
That's
right?
correct. That's correct.
Okay. Am I getting too into the weeds here?
No, because we're going to have to talk about the same thing with that old crazy wizard hermit, old Ben Kenobi, who also has selective memory.
I know, right? Okay. So, talking about droids, we have R5, also seen in The Mandalorian here. The red, which Luke calls red, right?
Yep.
According to the book, I think we talked about this. He's a droid on a mission in the Sandcrawler. R2-D2 talks to him. This is all in the book. This is not in the movie. R2-D2 talks to him, says he's on a mission to get plans back to Alderaan, to Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? R5, I believe is his name, yes. R5, the red droid, he gets selected by the Larges to come onto the thing, and he self-destructs himself so that R2 can go on his mission. Am I remembering that story correctly?
Yes. And so R5 purposefully malfunctions, right? Mm-hmm. So he's kind of a hero.
Yep.
Yeah, so R2 becomes property of the Lars family, thankfully, or else that would have been a very short movie. And can I just say too that this whole sequence, you gotta love Mark Hamill's acting performance. He's not screaming, but he is definitely kind of yelling every single line that he has.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters. Well, come on, Red, let's go. This R2 unit has a bad motivator, look. Uncle Owen? Yeah? What about that one? It just isn't fair.
Wait a minute, where'd she go? Bring her back. Play back the entire message.
All right, shut up.
Uncle Owen, what about that one? Uncle Owen, this one's got a bad motivator. I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters. Like, he's just constantly frantic in his delivery of the lines. And that is something that I would never change. It makes Luke like the great, great character he is.
The whiny Luke. One of my favorite lines from this scene is when he's talking about what language do you speak to C-3PO. He says, "Oh yes, it's like a second language." And then Uncle Owen says, "All right, shut up." Cuts him off mid-sentence. Just says, "All right, shut up."
All right, shut up.
So then we get into where Luke's cleaning him off. We're in the oil bath, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if you have comments, but my next comment is about when the iconic message from Leia pops up, but we're only getting the last line.
The only thing I wanted to say is C-3PO says he's not very good at storytelling, which is contradicted in Episode 6 when he's telling the story of the entire movies to the Ewoks. So I thought that was kind of funny. But
Complete sound effects.
Yeah, But yeah, let's talk about this message from Princess Leia.
So here's my first thing. Are you telling me C-3PO for the last 19 years has been on that Tantive 4, which is owned by Bail Organa, or at least frequented by the Organa family, like very frequently, right? That they're on there, and he doesn't know who Leia is.
That's right.
Like, you don't know that is.
She's very pretty, or she's very beautiful, or something. Doesn't he say something back to Luke about her?
Yeah. Who is she? She's beautiful, and I'm like, nothing. You got nothing here no exposition for us, huh, 3PO? You really are worthless, aren't you?
I didn't even catch that. He has no idea who Leia is.
Yeah.
So in Rogue One, I don't know that he's always been on the Tantive 4, because on Rogue One, he's on the Rebel base when they're all leaving,
Yeah, he is. Well, at the end of Episode 3, the last we see of them is they're on the Tantive 4. Okay. And Bail Organa says, "Wipe the protocol droid's memory."
Huh.
And and 3PO says to Luke in this scene that they belong to Captain Antilles, who's the captain of the Tantive 4.
Okay, I guess you're right. Yeah, they would have been stationed on that ship.
And it seems to be a transport that the Organa family uses frequently, so I have to believe that 3PO would know who the Organas are, right?
For sure.
So the fact that he's surprised by this message that R2-D2 has, like, well, who's that? I don't know. That is weird.
If he got his memory wiped, how is he supposed to know that his first job was moisture evaporators?
Yeah. How does he know what his first job, and how does he remember all 6 million languages?
Including the Sith language.
Of course I do, sir. All right, shut up.
It's like a second language. All right, shut up. Luke immediately seems to have feelings for Leia, which, did they even plan this whole storyline out? Did they plan this trilogy out? Because that's his sister, so that's super gross.
Well, when you're exiled on Tatooine, I don't think there's a whole lot of young women your age probably within a,
Hey, speaking of which, have you seen the deleted scene for this movie?
There's a few, isn't there? The one with him and Biggs?
Yeah, and they look up and they see the starfight above them, and they talk about going off and joining the rebellion or something. There's a girl in that scene.
Oh, I haven't seen it in a long time.
Was supposed to be someone, but then they cut that whole scene out. So anyway.
Mm. Well, so the other thing about this is, yeah, Luke's super into Leia, and he's super into, you know about the rebellion fight against the Empire? Like, he's all hyper about that. But then, when we get to the lunch or whatever meal scene with Uncle Owen, he's talking about how he wants to put his papers in to go into the academy. I'm like, so you want to join the Empire?
Yeah, I don't get that either. It
What's
seems like he
happening?
very much wants to be on the rebellion side.
Yeah, because he must know that Biggs is in the rebellion.
Uh-huh.
His friend Biggs, I don't know. So yeah, I'm like, wait, so you want to go to the Imperial Academy? You're going to be a TIE fighter pilot? I don't understand what the goal is here.
Not get it either. That's a good point.
But I will say when R2 tells 3PO or whatever, like he says he's property of some Obi-Wan Kenobi. And Luke, bless his heart, a little farm boy, very quaint, his mind.
Such an idiot.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. I wonder if he means old Ben Kenobi. How freaking common is the last name Kenobi? And that Obi-Wan Kenobi would be initials Old Ben Kenobi. Huh.
I wonder if it means old Ben Kenobi.
I only know 6 people within a 5,000-mile radius on this planet, and one of them's this old hermit named Old Ben Kenobi. I wonder if that's the same person. Yes, Luke, you are an idiot. And I'm surprised that anybody even respected you at all in this entire movie with the thought process that you have.
Okay, so we're at lunch. We got the blue milk, and they talk about, his uncle wants him to stay on for another season, then he can go. But as he leaves, the parents or the aunt and uncle talk to each other, and she says he has too much of his father in him. To which Uncle Owen says, "That's what I'm afraid of." So as I understand it, it was not planned that Vader was the father at this point in the movie making process. What are we supposed to take from that line?
Well, and even if it was part of the process, do Owen and Beru know that Anakin is Darth Vader? Have they even heard of Darth Vader? Is Darth Vader a well-known figure in the Outer Rim?
They would know who Anakin was, and they knew that he slaughtered sand people. But is that the extent of what they know, right? That's their only experience with this kid's father. Maybe that's what they don't like, right? But they think Anakin's dead. I don't know.
First of all, that whole conversation too, even when Luke is still there, can we just establish, first of all, Uncle Owen is a bit of a jerk. And he's not even trying to hide that he's a jerk, and he openly lies to Luke's face, and Luke knows he's lying because Owen's like, he says he's property of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Do you know what he's talking about? Like, no. He acts like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, I wonder if he means old Ben. He's like, that wizard's just a crazy old man. and then he says
he's dead.
Obi-Wan died about the same time as your father. He's like, wait, so you do know what I'm talking about? Because you just said that you had no idea what I was talking about. And now you're changing the story to, oh, I guess I do know what you're talking about. Yeah, that guy's dead. He died the same time as your father. I told you to forget it. Like, well, clearly you forgot it because you just had selective memory on what you're willing to divulge.
It's very interesting what they say here because of the new Obi-Wan show coming out. How are they going to make this conversation fit into, the TV show? Because I think we can assume that, well, I guess we can say they won't know him as Obi-Wan. Maybe Luke knows him as Old Ben, and maybe Old Ben does interact with them. I don't know. Would that be safe to say that Old Ben could make a show at the Large Homestead?
Definitely. I would like to see some Owen and Beru content in that show.
Yeah.
See what's happening there. But But I agree with you. I don't know what that's supposed to mean with he has too much of his father in him. Like, what do the Larses know about Anakin? I guess at that point they don't even know it's Anakin because we don't know that Anakin's the father yet until episode 5. But
right.
Anyway, so Luke goes off to go find, R2-D2 because he ran away. And I have to think to myself, that conversation we saw was the last one on screen for those people before, the Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru were brutally murdered. Anyway, so they go, and I'm thinking to myself, they find R2, right? They approach him with the speeder. They get R2, and there are 3POs there. They're 3 feet away from this speeder, and they hear the Tusken Raiders. And Luke says, "Come on, let's go check it out." And he grabs his gun. I'm like,
"Come on, let's go have a look." Come on.
Like, literally, you people could walk 3 feet, get back in that speeder, turn around, go home, and be fine. And instead, you want to go seek out the Tusken Raiders? I didn't understand that decision.
Yeah. Another special edition thing added here were the rocks hiding R2-D2. One of the more pointless, I guess. I don't understand why he added in those CGI rocks, but it's to show that he's more hidden, I guess.
I've mastered the ability of standing so incredibly still that I've become invisible to the eye.
But we had the infamous moment I think we alluded to earlier. I don't remember owning a droid.
Yeah.
Boy.
Yeah. Luke once again showing to Obi-Wan, yeah. He says he belongs to someone named Obi-Wan Kenobi. Did you know who that is? Obi-Wan's like about to pull out his lightsaber and just cut Luke's head off. Like, all right, this isn't the chosen one.
Well, he says, I haven't been called that since, what does he say? Since before
you were born. Which is false.
Yeah, that's not true. But I mean, it's obviously been 19 years. It's hard to remember. You can kind of get your dates mixed up, but...
Which means Deborah Chow writing this Obi-Wan movie, or series on Disney Plus, nobody better call him Obi-Wan in this show.
Because this whole conversation is going to be a big fat lie.
Yeah.
On Obi-Wan.
Yeah. But I mean, this whole thing, and then once again, yeah, so Obi-Wan doesn't recognize R2 or 3PO. Like, come on. He spent plenty of time with these two.
Yeah.
He knows who they are. So anyway, they go back to old Ben's homestead, his house, and this is where I feel like Obi-Wan's exposition of, like, oh, your uncle didn't agree with your father's choices and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, Owen and Anakin did not have a relationship. And I don't know why in this conversation. Well, I know why, because George Lucas hadn't thought it through. But, I mean, in canon, I'm thinking to myself, Obi-Wan is overplaying this relationship right now between Owen and Anakin. Like, there was some sort of tension there on...
He's trying to drive something in there, it seems like.
Didn't agree with each other's life choices. Like, what are you talking about? Like, there's no conversation.
Like saying, like, your uncle doesn't want you to know about your father. Like, you should leave your uncle, and they're so bad. I think you're right. I like what you said, because maybe that's something in the TV show we'll see, is this division between Obi-Wan and Uncle Owen, right?
Right.
Maybe Obi-Wan brings danger to the large homestead, and they're like, listen, we just want to be peaceful moisture farmers. We don't need you coming over here bringing us all this trouble. You know, we're fine on our own.
Yeah. Then we get C-3PO saying, like, if you don't mind, if you don't need me, I'm just going to shut down. Like, when has that ever happened? Like, we've set a precedent now that a droid, if there's no purpose for them to be powered on, I'll just shut off. Like,
I'll just turn off for a bit.
Yeah, if you don't need me, I'll just power down for a little bit. Like, all right. And then we get the full message from Leia. And at this point, I'm thinking to myself, Obi-Wan knows. Obi-Wan knows that they gave Luke's twin sister to Bail Organa. So he has to know when he's watching this message, Years ago, you served my father in the Clone Wars, blah, 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 blah. Now we're in Alderaan. He's got to put two and two together. This is Anakin's daughter and Luke's twin sister. And I'm like, at this point, he doesn't think it's a good idea to tell Luke, hey, listen, this is going to sound crazy, but that's actually your sister. Instead, he's all cryptic, like, you need to come with me to Alderaan and learn the ways of the Force. Like, just no reason. It might be a good idea. What do you say? Like, no, you need to be freaking explaining what's going on right now, Obi-Wan.
Yeah, a little more backstory for Luke probably would have helped. But anyway, Obi-Wan orders a hit on the Lars homestead. That's my new headcanon because he says, well, they get to the Sandcrawler. He says these are too accurate for sand people. They can only be made by Imperial stormtroopers. So we know right there he's lying.
Yeah.
Says, then Luke realizes, oh, if they tracked the droids there, then they would have gone home. And Obi-Wan knows they're dead because he ordered the hit on them. Obi-Wan wanted them dead so he could take Luke on this mission.
And Obi-Wan's like, no, Luke, stop. It's too dangerous. Like, not trying very hard to stop him. Like, go, feel a little bit of rage, feel like there's nothing left here for you, and then come back and see me. We're going to Alderaan, baby.
Another reason why the Jedi Council is number 5 on the villains list.
Okay, so then we cut to the Death Star and the meeting with Tarkin where he announces that Palpatine has dissolved the Senate. And, you know, some of the generals in there, the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the Death Star of the Empire are talking about, how will he control it without the bureaucracy? And I have to think in this moment, one of the great lines in the movie and the franchise, one of my favorite Vader lines, which is,
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
It's borderline sarcastic, which is great. The delivery is great. It's very interesting, too, to see Vader in this scene as, like, very kind of spiritually stoic, like, oh, like the Force and this kind of stuff. And the dude that gets choked out, I don't know his name. I know he has a name, and people, trivia nerds, will know it. But how in all of he's this high up in the Empire. He knows what's going on. He's been around the block. He's familiar with Tarkin and Vader. How does he not know that he doesn't need to be openly criticizing and challenging a Dark Lord of the Sith? Don't try to scare us with your old sorcerer's ways that I'm pretty sure I've witnessed you murder people with before.
Like, he obviously was around during the height of the Jedi too.
Yeah. I don't know what went through that bro's head, but it was not smart thoughts because he should have never opened his mouth.
Yep.
Like, it was fine when he was all high on the Death Star or whatever, and then when Vader says, don't be too proud of this technological terror that you've constructed. Mm-hmm. At that point, the guy he should have been like, actually, Krennic constructed it. I wasn't very much a part of it at all. Mostly Tarkin, actually, so you should be mad at him. If you don't like this because it challenges the Force, talk to Tarkin. And I would have deflected off of me at that point and not just let it go. Just be quiet. So that guy deserved to get choked.
Some things, I don't know if you saw the things going around on Twitter today, but this scene was mentioned. I can't remember who said it, but someone posted a picture of, from the Clone Wars, a whole bunch of clones sitting in a hangar listening to a briefing. This is the animated show, right? And they are sitting on, obviously, animated swivel chairs.
Oh, I did see that.
And then someone in the comments said, oh, they also are sitting in swivel chairs in this scene on the Death Star. And also they have big, cups in front of them. And so I was like, oh, I didn't know they all had Yetis back in the galaxy far, far away. So yeah, they are sitting, I watched it today, they are sitting in swivel chairs. Obviously, they're not Yeti cups, but anyway, I just thought it was funny.
That's funny.
And then there is an empty chair, and I think it's been confirmed that that empty chair was Orson Krennic's chair.
Interesting.
But he is dead. Fried crispy on Scarif.
Interesting.
So Luke goes back to the homestead. I did not notice this for years, that there were skeletons. Did you notice when you were younger?
Yes, it wasn't until I was like more into my preteen years, maybe 10, 11, 12, that I noticed. And I remember the first time I watched it and noticed, I'm like, there's like skeletons right there.
Uh-huh.
It's pretty gruesome.
Like, what in the world was used on them? Were they torched?
I feel like it had to be a flamethrower because the flesh is incinerated off of their bones.
I know. I don't know. Anyway, I would also say that A New Hope is the most gruesome of the Star Wars movies. Because not only do we have these skeletons, but we also have the bloody arm stump of Ponda Baba, whatever his name is.
Ponda Baba, yeah.
Okay. Now we're traveling to Mos Eisley. What does he say? A more wretched hive of scum and villainy?
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. We must be cautious.
This, to me, Sean, is the apex of unnecessary CGI.
Oh, yeah.
This scene.
Yes.
Like, beyond... I can understand the use of a dewback in the background. I do not understand the use of little flying droids. I do not understand the giant whatever it is walking in front of camera for 5 seconds. What is up with that?
That's a scene transition. That's a Ronto, first of all. Those are Rontos. And at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland and Disney World, you can buy Ronto wraps, and they're delicious.
Oh, yeah?
But I agree with you. The one droid, like, doing a clean press or something, like, with that piece of metal, I don't know what was happening, and and the speeder guy that's, like, out of control, like, whoa, and the other Ronto's rising up. I'm like, does the movie need to be longer? Were we looking for like a longer run time? Like, why is this in here? What is happening?
I wonder if those were the scenes in the marketed trailer for the special edition, because I think it came out a few years before Phantom Menace, and yes. I think those were probably some of the scenes like with new things added, and that was like I don't know. But I don't understand when they're pulling up to the stormtroopers. They're in the land speeder. They're pulling up. There's a whole bunch of things going on, and the Ronto walks in front of frame for 3 seconds at least, covering up everything.
Yes.
What is there something he's covering up, that like some mistake that George is like, well, the only thing we can do is put a giant monster in front to cover up this blooper.
The thing is I got those. At the time, I think I actually had the VHS special editions, and got them. I was less than 10 years old. So, I mean, by the time I was introduced to the special editions, I was still very young. And so I don't really remember, what it was before that. I would have to go back and look up probably old footage on YouTube or something, or just find the older version. I just was so used to that as part of it. But yeah, now that I'm an adult and watching the movie over again, I'm like, seems very unnecessary.
I tried to keep track of all the different Force things we learn in this movie. So we have Force choking, which we saw on the Death Star. Here we see mind control, Obi-Wan uses on the stormtroopers, which is kind of interesting. Kind of a fun way to... And this was evidence of Rey being a Kenobi in Episode 7 when she mind controlled the First Order troopers. But anyway, kind of a fun scene. And R2-D2 is laying on his side in the back of the land speeder, which I always think is funny. Like, he's just like...
I wonder if Kenny Baker was in there.
Just lay here. Anyway, do you have anything you want to say before we get into the cantina?
No, I don't have anything honestly until I don't have another comment until Han and Greedo's
Let's
show.
get there. Let's do it.
So yeah, the cantina scene, classic, iconic. I love the music. I love a lot of the times when I was watching this, if you've seen the Family Guy versions of the Star Wars movies, there's a lot of jokes that they make in there that still make me laugh when I watch the real versions of the movies now. I think of those, and one of those is the Cantina Band where they're playing dun 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 dun, and then they end, and in the Family Guy version they go, "Hey, we're taking requests. Anybody have any requests?" And then the guy goes in his own voice, he goes, "Play that same song." "All right, we'll play it again," and they play it again. Because it's like so iconic now that cantina music is like the Star Wars cantina music. But yeah, the whole everything in there, the cantina, I don't have anything I would change per se, and I don't really have any comments to make until we get to Han and Greedo. And part of, first of all, watching it on Disney Plus. So you didn't watch it on Disney Plus, or did you?
So I think Disney Plus is the Blu-ray edition. So I think we saw the same version.
Okay. Because, the big thing in the last year or 2 years, whenever this new edition came out, was that Greedo yells McClunky.
McClunky! Yeah.
Which is like, who made that? Who's making that crazy?
That's not in the Blu-ray. So that is Disney Plus now.
Okay, yeah. So he yells McClunky when he and Han shoot at presumably the same time. Han shot first.
Unlike Moose's head.
Yeah. And Greedo yells McClunky in the Disney Plus version now.
Yes, I bet you have. McClunky.
And I thought to myself, who made that creative decision? Hey, we're putting the movies up on Disney Plus. Just on this specific version on Disney Plus, let's add a line for Greedo. He needs to say something. What should he say? McClunky? Like, I really do want to know what the creative decision was behind that. Who decided to do it? Because it's very strange that he says that. McClunky.
Yes, I bet you have.
Is that what McClunky translates to?
Okay, I was looking up on Wikipedia. Pointed out, McClunky is a Huttese word that can be roughly translated as "this will be the end of you." Hence why it's funny and ironic that Greedo's last word. The same word was spoken by Sebulba in The Phantom Menace.
Oh.
Skywalker stops him from beating Jar Jar Binks.
Interesting.
These changes to the film were supervised by George Lucas as part of the 4K restoration of the original trilogy. So it's Lucas's call.
Not surprising.
So there you go. McClunky.
You got to respect the Hutts that they've come up with a language that with that noise, McClunky, they can convey, "this will be the end of you." Seems like a pretty lengthy, complex sentiment to do in one McClunky.
Yeah. There's actually a YouTube video that I've seen where they talk about all the different edits that they've done to that scene and how originally Han did shoot first, and then they changed it because George Lucas said no, he can't shoot first. So then Greedo obviously shoots first. Anyway, it's a madness. And now it's just a meme, it seems like, that every time there's a new edition, they're going to change it again. But anyway.
So then Han shoots Beckett first in Solo: A Star Wars Story, which is a great Star Wars movie if you haven't seen it, and kind of retcons that like Han did shoot first.
Yeah, he does shoot first.
Because then we get to this scene with Jabba.
Wait, before we get there.
Okay.
No, let's talk about it. I'll talk later about my other thing. The Jabba thing, there's like 2 Greedos in the background.
And they're in like the same costume. It's like
Exact
all Rhodians have to wear the same clothes?
Yes, they do. Orange vests, green pants.
Also, you can tell, first of all, Jabba, terrible CGI. Second of all, you can tell that this is obviously a deleted scene because the dialogue that Han says is identical to the dialogue he says when he's talking to Greedo.
Yeah.
It's the same conversation over again.
Mm-hmm.
Han says the same lines. Now, they change what Jabba says a little bit, but Han's saying the same thing. And originally, if I'm not mistaken, if I've seen documentaries or whatever that explain this, originally Jabba was going to be a human.
Yes.
And in the original scene, Han is walking around a human man.
And like a big fur costume or something.
Yes, having that dialogue. So in the CGI, when Han steps on Jabba's tail, they like CGI Han Solo like stepping up and down, like really kind of abrasive, like because they had to like crop him out of the shot and move him up and down.
Well, because in walking around a human, he doesn't step on a tail. But now that Jabba's there, there's a tail he has to somehow get on top of. It doesn't make any sense why they included it. You're right. No added information other than we get to see Jabba the Hutt, but he doesn't look like anything in the Return of the Jedi.
He doesn't.
So what's the point?
He's gained a lot of weight between this and Return of the Jedi because he looks kind of small in this to me. And we see Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Which is not something that was in the original cut of the movie.
Right. We don't see Boba Fett till the Christmas, whatever last day, the special edition.
Yeah. Yeah. So to me, that was like, why is this scene in here? But all right.
Okay, the thing I want to talk about is Chewbacca and Obi-Wan. Chewbacca was there on Kashyyyk with Yoda in Yoda's Jedi Council meeting, correct? And Obi-Wan was there in that Jedi Council meeting, correct? So you're telling me Chewbacca, a member of the highly regarded Wookiee species, who are known to live hundreds and hundreds of years, who probably have a fantastic memory and never forget, would not recognize Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Or when Obi-Wan whips out the lightsaber and cuts off the arm of a patron at the bar, Chewbacca's not like, you're a Jedi? Like, no one's going to discuss that? Like, we don't have people walking around with lightsabers out here unless you're a Jedi.
Yeah. He hasn't seen a lightsaber probably since Yoda left the escape pod, or left on the escape pod of Kashyyyk, right?
Yeah, and actually there is another thing in this scene too, when Obi-Wan and Luke are talking to Han and Chewie at the table, and Luke again is whining like, "What? We don't have to sit here and listen to this." Like, bro, calm down. I think Obi-Wan at any point wants to like shank Luke. Like, you're really messing up our vibe here, bro. But this is the start of a recurring theme for the rest of the movie, which is people keep promising these rewards and reward money, and I'm like, does anyone have the authority to promise any of this stuff? Obi-Wan's like, we'll give you 2 now and 15 when we get there. He's like, I hope Bail Organa has 15,000 credits. Like, whose money is he promising? Bail Organa, who he hasn't seen in 19 years?
Hey, nice to see you. Hey, you owe this guy 15.
Yeah.
You owe Uber driver here 15,000 credits.
I told him that we'd pay him 15,000 credits.
I'm a terrible negotiator. He had me at 10. I went to 17.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought about that. I was like, oh, all right. Obi-Wan's promising somebody's money there. I don't know whose. And then, so anyway, we take off in the Millennium Falcon. Are you ready to leave Tatooine?
Let's go.
We leave in the Millennium Falcon. this is another Family Guy joke that I just think is so funny every time. Is they're leaving off-world, and then the 2 Star Destroyers start following them, and Han goes, "Don't worry, I know a few maneuvers," and he just slowly lists to the left.
Because that's all that happens in the movie. The maneuver is the Millennium Falcon keeps going straight.
Like I thought you knew a maneuver. I am. I'm listing to the left.
Listing lazily to the left.
Where do they go? There they are. They're listing lazily to the left. Go left, left. Boy, this guy knows some maneuvers.
Oh, it is so funny. It's like he didn't do any maneuvers to try to get away from them. Very funny. Anyway, and then I love too when Luke is working with the training droid or whatever, and Han makes a comment about how like there's no cosmic power that's controlling my destiny, and then Luke turns off his lightsaber and goes, all condescendingly, "You don't believe in the Force, do you?" And Family Guy is the best response where Han goes, "You mean that thing that you just found out like 2 hours ago and now you're judging me for not believing in?"
It's so true, though.
Yeah. Like Luke now is this dedicated devotee, disciple of the Force, and is going to judge Han for not believing in it.
I think it's interesting. I never caught this until my viewing last night. Han Solo makes the comment about how none of this, the mumbo jumbo isn't good. Nothing beats a good blaster at your side, right? Then immediately Obi-Wan says, "Well, put this on, put the visor down." And to me, it seemed like Obi-Wan is not only trying to train Luke, but also trying to convert Han because I think Obi-Wan knows my time is coming to an end soon, and these two are it, or at least they need to be working together, sort of.
Do you know who actually knows that Obi-Wan's time is coming to an end?
Who?
Qui-Gon.
Oh yeah, Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon does. That's right. They do talk, right? What does Qui-Gon say to him there, the Sandcrawler?
Says something about Obi-Wan doesn't get it, but he says something about how like we'll talk again soon or we'll meet again soon because Qui-Gon knows Obi-Wan is about to become one with the Force.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's a side tangent again from the book, A Certain Point of View. Highly recommend. But yeah, so the other comment that Han makes there while they're sitting there, he's like, "Okay, we're on course. We'll be at Alderaan at 0200. I'm like, "You're getting there at 2 a.m.? Getting there at 2 a.m.? And then, I kid you not, there's no scene break. They have their little conversation, and 6 minutes later, they're there. It's like we'll be there at 0200 hours. Why would you say that and just say it? We'll be there in about 5 minutes.
We'll be there very soon, actually. Let's go get our seats.
Yeah, we're so anyway. So they show up. Obviously, Alderaan's been destroyed. I guess we didn't cover that scene. Did you have anything from that with Leia and Tarkin and?
It's just beautiful dialogue. Great acting from Carrie Fisher. Great. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, I don't have any.
Extra foul stench as soon as they brought me aboard.
Yeah. So the Millennium Falcon shows up. It's now obviously an asteroid field because of the debris from the blown up planet. And I remember thinking to myself, this viewing for the first time, they're going through this thing, and he's like, it's gone. It's been blown to bits, or whatever he says. And I'm like, how are they the only ship in the area? You're telling me there was no other starship traffic around Alderaan at the time? Nobody else? I thought, isn't it like kind of an inner core planet? Kind of a prominent planet?
The Death Star just kind of tractor beaming them all, I guess. I don't know.
It's a good question. I just thought it's weird to me that there aren't a whole lot of other witnesses or spectators to what happened to Alderaan.
And why would the Death Star tractor beam them? The Death Star, the whole purpose of blowing up Alderaan is to instill fear into people, right? So if ships come and see a blown up place and see the Death Star, why would the Death Star be like, now you're in prison? Wouldn't they be like, go tell your friends what you saw here? Yeah, we blew this place up,
And what if Han would have just been like, he would have hid Obi-Wan and Luke and the droids in the smuggling compartment, but he and Chewie could have just been like in the cockpit like, we were just coming to Alderaan. Like,
Yeah.
it's not here. Like, well, what are we supposed to do? And they're like, okay, yeah, you can leave. Like, why would the Empire be interested in the Millennium Falcon and what it was doing around Alderaan? It can't have been that weird of an occurrence for a ship to arrive at Alderaan.
Oh, there's a ship. We got to get that one.
Yeah, no.
It's the only ship we've seen all day.
So they do the good smuggling technique. I always notice here, I feel bad for Sir Alec Guinness because he literally can't get out of the hole. He's like, ah, ah. I'm like, will someone help that poor man out? Can we get a stunt double in here?
Who's the more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him?
I was just like resigned to the fact that he's just in there.
Yes.
Let's stay here.
And so they get up into the like, you know, TK421, why aren't you at your post? They get up. Whoever was down there, was it Han or Luke that came down and was like pointing at his thing? And then the other one is at the door already. They clear out the thing, and the other guy is up there in a flash. I'm like, how did he get up there so fast?
He's right there.
And again, this brings up a question where Obi-Wan goes away. They're talking about it. Han's like, I'm staying here. The princess, like, I'm staying here. Luke has that whole thing trying to convince him. And then all of a sudden, Luke convinces him by saying, she's rich.
She's powerful.
Why at that point would Han take Luke's word for like as good as gold? I'm going to get a reward because Luke told me she's rich.
I feel like Han would be ticked off right now because the whole thing was deliver them to Alderaan. He just lost 15,000 credits or something, and now he's like, oh, there's another chance. I guess I can save the princess and kind of recoup my losses here. Maybe that's what he's into. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just weird to me that Han would take the word of this 19-year-old farm boy who's never been 20 miles off of his homestead is like, oh yeah, you're telling me that she I forget the exchange, but Han basically doubles down and is like, it better happen. And Luke's like, it will. And I'm like, Luke has zero authority to be promising rewards.
We get to they go up to the prison block. First of all, I love the part where they get into the elevator. Another guy's trying to get into the elevator, and they're like, no, no, no. And they just kind of point to Chewie. No, 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 you don't want to be in here with this thing. They're like, oh, okay, go to a different elevator. They get up there, and we don't see it because of it's a deleted scene in Solo Star Wars story, but Han was part of the Empire. I feel like he should have done a better job of trying to hide things here. But his backstory is he was in the academy. He went through pilot training. But anyway, it's obviously played for laughs. It's a funny moment. How are you? We're fine here, thanks. How are you? He winces immediately. And then says the famous line, that was a boring conversation anyway, to where he blows up the microphone.
Yeah. And then Luke finds Leia. Aren't you a little short to be a stormtrooper? I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you. I'm here with Ben Kenobi. Ben Kenobi! And if I was Luke, I would have been like, yeah, but he didn't seem to know who you were. So, I mean,
know each other?
Sorry about that. I know you're probably a big deal on your planet. Oh, but that also just blew.
Also, I promised that guy that he'd pay him a lot of money, so maybe if he could somehow make sure he gets killed in this little exchange we have, he thinks you're going to pay him a lot of money here. And I promised it.
Seriously. So anyway, yeah, they go down and Leia has to save their skins because there's no plan.
Which is fantastic. It's fantastic that Leia's doing it. I love it.
End of the garbage chute, Flyboy. First of all, how does she know he's a pilot? Calling him Flyboy like that.
More sensitive, maybe?
Force sensitive. That's right. She could sense that he was the pilot that made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. So then they get down, and again, I love that the dialogue when they're down in the garbage chute is just them all yelling at each other.
Uh-huh.
There's something alive in here. What was that? What? Just
Touch me. Did you that?
Constantly yelling at each other.
So that C-3PO thinks they're all dying. He thinks they're all dead. We have the infamous head bump. The stormtroopers walking into the control room. There's the head bump. I don't know if you saw, there's a documentary out about trying to find out who was the actor that bumped his head. And 2 guys lay claim to it. And the whole documentary is trying to find out which one of them is telling the truth. And at the end of the documentary, they're just like, we don't know. One of them is lying, one of them's telling the truth. It's one of these 2 guys. But we can't figure out who it is. So I thought that was kind of interesting. For those of you who don't know, many of you probably do, that head bonk is then shown in Attack of the Clones when Jango Fett, who is obviously the DNA provider for the clone troopers, he bonks his head getting into Slave One. So, anyway, just a fun. But I thought at this point the stormtroopers are not clones anymore. So, anyway.
They're not clones anymore. And correct me if I'm wrong, they add a little bit of a sound effect when he bonks his head. So it's like they clearly caught it, and they're like, well, let's just add a sound effect to instead of like reshoot or anything. Like, let's just add a sound effect. He bonked his head. Yeah, so then we get the whole sequence of they're escaping out of the garbage chute. They get all their clean clothes, nice clothes, a fresh towel to, get the garbage water out of their hair. I'm like, how
did they get these clothes from?
Yeah. The only thing I could think is, were they wearing their freshest, nicest clothes underneath the stormtrooper armor?
Oh.
Because Han and Luke are wearing exactly what they were always wearing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, so it has to be the same clothes. They don't have an extra set of the same exact style of clothes on the Death Star for them right outside the garbage chute.
And why get out of the stormtrooper stuff?
Yeah. Anyway, but they're running around, and somehow Han Solo's not dead, even though he definitely should be dead, because he's like chasing a
hundreds
squad of stormtroopers down the hall, and he's not even shooting at them. He's just yelling and charging, and finally turns a corner, and there's like, dozens of them, and it's like, even when there were only 10 of them, they should have just turned around immediately. They could have killed him immediately.
Blammo, yes.
Or set their weapons to stun. You could have stunned him immediately.
They're not it, they didn't. I love the line, too, from Leia. You came in that thing? You're braver than I thought.
Yeah.
We also find a new force power. We've been tracking it. Do you know what force power I'm talking about here? From Obi-Wan?
Oh, yeah, the making distracting, making a noise off in the distance.
Force noise distraction. Yep.
Can I just say, when I was a kid, too, and when that scene of Obi-Wan deactivating the tractor beam, I always felt a little bit anxious about him being out where there was no railing on that little lip of a walkway. I was like, hold on, bro. You're a little bit of a feeble old guy. I already could tell you can't get out of a not super stable and steady. So, but yeah, so he distracts the guards. He gets away, but then he can't escape his fate and his destiny. And who's waiting down the hallway for him?
Darth Vader. Anakin Skywalker.
His old Padawan.
I want to talk to you about this fight scene. I'm sure you've seen the fan edit of the fight scene, right?
Scene, what is it called? Like scene 1138 or A123 or whatever it is?
About that fan edit video. We don't need to talk a lot about it, but I'm just curious about... I don't like it. I mean, I like it. I don't think the idea of this should have been the fight scene is the correct way of thinking. I think the fight scene that we see in the movie is the fight scene we should have seen between an old man and his Padawan, right? Who know each other perfectly well. But then they go on and they make this awesome fan edit film that is cool and awesome and really fun, but I don't think is the right fit here.
Yeah, I am similar to you, kind of both ways. I like the fan edit. I think it's really cool and epic, and I like watching it. But part of the charm of the original movie and that first lightsaber duel that we ever see, it's, the least choreographed lightsaber duel that we see in the saga, and clearly a product of George Lucas not knowing what the saga would become.
Yeah,
and even to the point where at that time he thought lightsabers needed to be like two-handed, and they were heavy kind of two-handed weapons that you would just kind of sword fight with, and then you get to the prequels where it's one-handed flipping all over the place with the lightsabers. But, and I know a lot of people have kind of criticized, like, oh, does it break canon because like they seem like they're so weak? But in my mind, I like the headcanon of, and I know a lot of people have already explained this, that Vader maybe is being a little bit cautious, like testing out, okay, where is the skill level of Obi-Wan right now, and doesn't want to do anything too rash in terms of going full force on him, because he's, taking a precaution there. And the duel is less about their physical skill at that point and more that, well, there's implications for this now because we don't know what's going to happen in the new Obi-Wan show. But as of right now, we can assume this is the first time they see each other since episode 3, and that duel.
I think that'll change. I think there's room for that to change.
Yeah, I think they'll see each other in the new show. But, I mean, this duel as of right now, it's like this is the first chance that they've even had a chance to interact or even attempt to reconcile their relationship in 19, 20 years. And obviously they're not going to reconcile. But anyway, I like it too. I don't think that it needs to be edited, but I do like the fan edit. I think it has some cool moments.
Like, what do you think? It made me think Obi-Wan sacrifices himself as soon as he sees Luke. As soon as he sees Luke, that's when he puts the lightsaber up and, becomes one with the Force. So it tells me, what's Obi-Wan fighting for? He's fighting for the future of Luke and to put him on a path where he is the chosen one.
Is it when he sees Luke or when he sees Leia?
Oh.
I'm just kidding. I think it's obviously when he sees Luke, but he also is potentially seeing Leia, and so he's dueling Anakin and sees Anakin's children.
Yep.
And like we've established already, he should know who Leia is, even though he acts like he doesn't.
He should know who she is.
And so this idea of him seeing Anakin's 2 children, the future of the Skywalker line, together, yes. I think that he thinks this is a good time. And I think there's something to be said of, it was a powerful demonstration to Luke of the power of the Force, that, look, Vader's not going to kill me. He's not defeating me. I am going to become one with the Force. Something that Anakin, at the time, as Vader, I should say, something that Vader probably doesn't understand. In fact, I know he doesn't understand.
So does Obi-Wan become a Force ghost right before the blade hits? Is
think so.
Darth Vader's blade hitting an empty cloak?
I think so.
Okay, I think so too.
I think so. And obviously, immediately, Obi-Wan can speak to Luke.
Run, Luke.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, great scene. Great scene, and really gets me excited for the Obi-Wan show on Disney Plus to see. Give me some more Obi-Wan, Anakin, Vader interaction relationship here.
I 100% agree. Okay. Oh, here's the thing I want to talk about. Earlier. They get on the ship. They fight the TIE fighters. They get away. It's a fun scene. It's cool. They blow up the things. Don't get cocky is mentioned in there. But Leia mentions that she knows, oh, we got away too easily because we're being tracked. She knows they're being tracked. But she takes no effort to do anything about it. Not go to a diversion point and switch ships. Not to try and find the homing beacon. They're just like, let's just go straight to Yavin 4 and lead them right to us. What in the world is she thinking?
Oh, I wrote down the same thing. Leia thinks they let them go, question mark. Why go to the base then, question mark. That's what I wrote down in my notes. The other thing I'll say about that, because you're so right, is the same thing with transmitting the plans. Why did they just transmit the plans to Yavin? And then when they're escaping, why not tell Han, hey, we need to go like lay low somewhere else? And then, well, earlier Tarkin says to Vader, like, are you sure the tracking beacon's on there? I'm taking an awful risk, Vader, letting them go. I'm like, really? What risk? What risk do you take letting them go? I don't understand what he's talking about.
I don't know why they're letting them. Anyway.
Well, and then, Luke's all mopey at the chess table, the Jarek table or whatever about Ben dying, and Leia's like trying to comfort him. I'm like, her planet, there was just a planet-wide genocide of her homeworld.
Her parents.
And sitting here, she's having to comfort you, you little twerp. Like, what is wrong with you? For somebody who at this point acts like he kind of sees her as kind of a love interest, he's pretty self-centered.
Yeah, he is.
And I love the line again of Han Solo being like, I expect to get paid. I'm in it for the money. And she's like, if money is all you love, then that's what you'll receive. And again, I thought to myself, girl, you are now a homeless refugee. Whatever money you think you had, the Bank of Alderaan just got incinerated. Your net worth is zero.
You're homeless.
You have no room to be promising Han Solo any type of reward. Jeez. And first of all, I think it's ironic that whatever money the rebellion has basically is Han Solo's money, because in Solo: A Star Wars Story, he single-handedly funded Enfys Nest's rebel cell and the start of the rebellion.
To the point with the coaxium.
With his refined coaxium. And so, really, he should have been walking in like, where's Enfys Nest?
I own this joint.
We've got a debt to settle here.
I paid these bills.
I want my coaxium back with interest.
We get to Yavin 4. I don't really have a whole lot to say about the Yavin 4 stuff. It's just not even interesting. But we do have Biggs, who does show up, which is kind of jarring because we don't know who he is. Obviously, Luke knows who he is. That's why I feel like the deleted scene would have been beneficial to have. Oh, okay, this is his friend that we saw earlier, but it's just like, oh, Biggs.
I think a couple of comments about the Yavin 4 scene. First of all, in the briefing, when what's his name, Dodonna or General, whatever his name is, the guy giving the briefing, is talking about the Death Star, and he says, I wrote it down because it made me scratch my head. He said that the Death Star had firepower greater than half the Starfleet. And I'm like, greater than half the Starfleet? No. greater than 50 Starfleets. This
Yeah.
thing is way more than greater than half the Starfleet. If we came into Alderaan, Han said an entire Starfleet couldn't take out
Yeah.
a planet. Like, so you're first of all, you've already going into the fight underestimating the firepower of this thing. So that's strike one, you idiot. And then I wrote down every conversation in the hangar besides Han and Luke is meaningless. Like all this relationship building between Biggs and Luke and Leia. Leia's like, what's wrong? I just wish Ben were here. Like, will you freaking snap out of it? We are about to go up against the Death Star. And her, once again, she just lost her entire planet. And he's all moping around about Ben. Yeah, he disappeared, so we didn't actually see him die. And then I actually can hear his voice in my head now, so he's kind of with me always. I kind of feel his presence around me, but yeah, I kind of wish he was here. Like, yeah, well, I wish my parents were here. They just died.
Mm-hmm.
All my friends, everyone I ever knew, the population of my entire planet. I wish they were here, but they're not.
Hey, but Admiral Holdo is still alive.
Yeah, Holdo's still alive. And Cara Dune is still alive. For now.
Wait, oh, that's right. Cara Dune is from Alderaan.
He's from Alderaan.
And then the conversation with the Red Leader, right? Are you sure you can handle this ship?
And he, like, on a dime, he's like a jerk, and then on a dime, he's like, "You'll do all right." Like, who? That was weird and creepy.
Yeah, any sort of training in this thing?
Then that was my only other comment from this is, why are they trusting Luke to go up in one of these things?
Did he show off his skills somehow? Because we haven't seen him be a good starfighter.
No, not at all. And this carries on throughout the entire space battle, which is, why is anyone taking orders from Luke or letting Luke run point on anything?
Good point.
And yet,
what we've seen Luke do is him in the garage going with his little toy.
He really understands angles. Yeah, and Biggs vouching for him. He's the best bush pilot in the Outer Rim. Like, and he can bullseye womp rats back home in Beggar's Canyon. I'll tell you, well, we're about to fly against the freaking Death Star, all right? And this thing will blow up the forest moon of Yavin, or the far moon of Yavin, with the entire Rebel Alliance on it, which for some inexplicable reason they have decided they're not going to evacuate.
Nope, they're staying put. We ain't leaving. All our eggs in this basket.
We are all in on this untrained farm boy from Tatooine.
And Princess Leia leads you right to us, and we're staying put. We've got 20 starfighters max.
We've got you right where we want. Because this gets back to, I told you jokingly when we first got on here, I think before we started recording, I'm like, I got a lot of thoughts about the medal ceremony at the end. Because at the medal ceremony, there are tons of pilots in flight suits. And I'm like, where were all these people? Why weren't they flying? We needed more people out there.
Yeah, it seems like just like 3 people survive.
We came home with the Millennium Falcon, 2 X-Wings, which was Luke and Wedge, and 1 Y-Wing. That is what we came home with out of all those people that went. And you're telling me now at the medal ceremony that there's like 40 more pilots? What were you people doing? And then if you're going to tell me that the reason that was because they didn't have enough ships for all the pilots to go.
Luke could get one.
Then why did Luke get one? No sense. It's nonsensical. So anyway, when they start flying towards the Death Star and they start doing the call signs, my wife and I, we spent a lot of time discussing, why didn't they go in chronological numerical order in the call sign?
I don't get it either.
How do they know whose turn it is? Red 2, Red 7, Red 5, Red 9, Red 3. Like, why not just go leader 2, 3, 4, 5? Just go in order. We don't need to make this complicated. If that's the kind of opening statement of what our military operation is going to be, then this whole thing is set up to fail. If we can't even get the simple numerical call signs in order, it's going to be chaos.
They got lucky.
They got lucky.
Can we talk about the trench run?
Bert, before the trench run, can I ask you, why does Biggs tell Porkins to eject? Eject into space?
Eject!
Eject! Like,
okay.
He ejects into space and then what, parachutes? He doesn't need a parachute. He's going to be floating.
He's dead as soon as he ejects. At least stay in the cockpit. The most safest place you can be in space is inside the cockpit.
Yeah. So Biggs is not thinking clearly. He must have thought, oh, I'm getting confused of when we have in-atmosphere training maneuvers as opposed to out here, which is in the cold, dark vacuum of space. Don't eject.
Okay, can I ask you about this trench run? I think I brought this up before, but I want to bring it up again because it sort of doesn't make sense. The trench run, I want to draw this out, is horizontal, right? Then the little place, I don't know how you can see this.
Not at all.
The trench run is horizontal, right?
Yes.
They're flying down the trench run. The little place they're trying to shoot is looking skyward, correct?
Yes.
So my question is...
I think it's kind of angled. Not completely skyward, kind of angled maybe.
Oh. So it's kind of like this? What I don't understand is, why are they flying down the trench?
Yeah, I get your point.
The thing is here. If
Yes.
the entry is here.
Yes. Why? You don't need to come down the trench that far. Just come at it from up top. Straight down.
Yep.
Not only that, but when they tell Luke and Wedge and Biggs to kind of hang out and wait because the other guys are going to do the trench run first. Red Leader is going to do his run first.
And then Gold, right? Or when does Gold go?
I think Gold goes first, and I don't remember. But the point is that they tell Luke to hold off. And that's when Vader comes down and starts shooting the people currently doing their run. And I'm like, instead of having Luke and Biggs and Wedge just in a holding pattern, how about have them come out behind Vader and engage the fighters? Because I can't emphasize this enough, guys. We kind of only got one shot at this. We got about 5 minutes before the Death Star blows up the Rebel base, and the Alliance is over.
And I got another problem with that. We know the Death Star has hyperspeed capabilities, right?
Yes.
How about you do a little micro jump? The planet will be in range in 20 minutes. Tarkin's like, do a little micro jump to just a little bit out there. Shoot, it's now in range. Like, it's got hyperspace capabilities. Use it.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, first of all, all those X-wings should have just been doing some holdo maneuvers.
I don't get it. I don't get it, but it's fine.
Kamikaze right into this thing.
It was explained to me that the purpose of the trench one was to lock on with their targeting computer, correct? That was the point.
Well, then the Red Leader's like, set up for your attack run. Don't come save me because I just lost my starboard engine. And then, and he kamikazes himself. And then Luke starts calling the shots. I'm like, is Luke Red Leader now?
I thought this would go it. Or Wedge.
Wedge was Red 2.
Yeah.
And then Biggs is Red 3. So Red 2, I assume the lower your number, the higher you are up in the leadership. So Wedge should be calling the shots. But no. Luke is going to take point on the attack run, and he tells Wedge and Biggs, cover me, and right with you, Red 5, or right with you, Luke, or whatever. Like, they're just fine to take orders from him. Makes no sense. It's his first ever military operation. Wedge has flown dozens, if not hundreds of missions for the Alliance at this point.
Yep.
And he's going to be taking orders from Luke. Makes no sense. And then the other thing I hate about this scene, when they're doing their trench run, is Wedge is like, oh yeah, I got an issue. Like, if I stay here, I'll probably die. So do you guys mind if I like bail?
I'm
I
out.
know that kind of leaves Biggs kind of like a sitting duck, but I don't really want to die. And then Luke's like, yeah, that's fine. You can
You're
go.
useless back there, Wedge.
Oh, you kind of got a headache? Yeah, you can go home for the rest of the day. You're dismissed.
Or I don't know what you're going to go back to because our base is about to be destroyed. So
Yeah, so Wedge, punks out, and it kind of must be nice, R.I.P. Biggs. Like Biggs was probably like, I wish I could go. Like, but you kind of like made it so that I had to stay now. So thank you.
Oh, I was actually getting kind of tired too. I was getting a little hungry. Oh, but okay, I guess you can go. I'll stay. Oh, no.
Then I also love probably the people in the base on Yavin. I'm sure a lot of people in that control room were thinking, we're gonna die.
That's it. Especially when he turns off his targeting computer.
Yeah, Luke, you've turned off your targeting computer. Nothing. I'm all right. Like, then turn it the freak back on, you idiot. We're about to die. This isn't a joke. This isn't bullseyeing Womprats. I'd be like so ticked. Like, who is this kid?
That's it.
We got 40 pilots over here. We didn't have any ships for any of them, and any of them would be better in this situation right now. But it serves them right that nobody wanted to evacuate. Like, they're all just sitting there hoping that they come out victorious.
Because we know. Anyway, it doesn't fit in because they have a fleet of ships, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
No, they do because in Rebels we see they have a fleet of ships. Anyway.
On Rogue One, we just saw it.
That's true. Yep, we did.
Well, and so, Han Solo's triumphant return, he comes and helps. I love Vader's, what?
What?
And now blow this thing, let's go home. Anyway, so everyone's elated. They come back. We left with, 20, 30 guys. And, those ships, I'm assuming X-Wings and Y-Wings are pretty expensive to replace and maintain.
Yeah, 3 ships.
So the 2 squadrons are completely decimated. And we get back and everyone's acting like it's the greatest thing that ever happened to them. They're all, yeah! And Leia and Han and Luke are all like Wizard of Ozing down the yellow brick road out of the hangar like, this is great. I'm like, well, I guess R.I.P. Biggs and Porkins and all these guys, like no one wants to, no moment of silence here?
You had 2 full squadrons get decimated. You had 2 people out of the red squadron who survived. Yeah, celebration.
Yeah, just no solemnity at all that a lot of people just lost their lives. Where was Mon Mothma? She needed to be in here, but like many Bothans died to bring us. She always knows how to bring the mood down a little bit.
That's right, she does.
And so she needed to be like, we won a great victory, but at what cost? Because some people who are alive here today, and then she would kind of side-eye Wedge, some people who are alive here today decided not to be a team player, and therefore others who used to be here are now dead, vaporized into dust in the cold vacuum of space.
Not saying any names, but now you will be the squadron leader.
Yeah.
Do you have any other problems with the medal ceremony?
Yeah, I do. First of all, where's Wedge's medal? Why are Han and Luke getting medals and Wedge and anonymous Y-Wing pilot not getting medals? Like they weren't there too and survived? Come on. Chewbacca, obviously. If they're going to do a special edition, what they need to do is CGI Maz Kanata in there. She needs to be there at the medal ceremony, and they need to say, here's the medal for Chewbacca, and she says, no, give it to me. I'll give it to him later.
I like that, Wookiee.
And then in Rise of Skywalker, when she hands it to him, we're like, finally. After 40 years, she finally was able to deliver the medal to Chewbacca.
Well,
so, yeah.
That's a new hope.
And despite everything we just said, I wouldn't change anything.
except for Jabba the Hutt. Take that out. An hour and 42 minutes later, Sean, we have finished our review of. We might as well have just put the movie on and let people watch it. Talk about in depth. What are we going to do for Last Jedi when we get to that?
So true, because I have a lot of thoughts on Last Jedi that I haven't shared with you yet.
Oh, really? You do?
Yep.
Especially considering all the new stuff we're getting from Ryan Johnson about it.
Yeah, I figured when we got into original trilogy, these might get longer and longer.
Yeah. Empire Strikes Back is going to be really long. But I enjoyed talking with you. I enjoyed all the points you brought up. I really think we really tore that movie apart, and now it's just garbage to me now because it's obviously pretty terrible. George Lucas did absolutely no planning. He just wung it, it seemed like, and had no forethought for anything that was coming in the future. All he cared about was merchandising. That greedy man. But anyway, it's because of what he did with A New Hope that we are here today talking about what we're talking about.
Hard to argue with that, but we would love to hear in the comments if you've made it this far. You are a true fan of Star Wars, this channel, and I actually am a little bit concerned that maybe you don't have a life and you need to rethink some things. But if you made it this far, leave a comment below on what are some of your highlights from A New Hope. What are some things you think need to change or could be changed to make that movie better? We'd love to hear from you. The next video in this little series we do will obviously be episode 5, Empire Strikes Back.
Or maybe, oh, sorry. Bad Batch is coming out. Are we doing anything with Bad Batch?
I don't know. Should we? Isn't it come out in May?
No, I thought it was March.
Oh, it comes out in March?
I thought. No, you're right. It's May 5th. May 4th. Yeah, sorry. I was wrong. Winter Soldier, or the Falcon thing is coming out in this month.
Yeah, Falcon and Winter Soldier. And tomorrow is WandaVision finale, which I'm very excited for.
Oh, boy. But yeah, leave a comment about what you're excited for our Empire Strikes Back video. And we'll get around to that eventually. And maybe give us some ideas for other Dads of Dagobah you'd like to see in the future. Because we're once we get to Rise of Skywalker, I don't know what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, they need to get going on these Disney Plus shows so that we can start doing these reviews of all these shows.
Oh man, I can't wait. The Book of Boba Fett looks fantastic. And anyway, until next time, Sean.
We have spoken.
This is the way.
And we'll see you next time on Dads of Dagobah.
Bye.
Bye.